Hello and welcome to another Frenchman Learns About Japan reaction stream, and specifically the celebrity offshoot branch, however you want to call it. Where we watch videos about celebrity. So far we've mostly watched videos from Neon John, a great channel that does mostly, I would say, like streamers, idols, underground artists. That's mostly what they've covered so far. But again, so far this channel has been like a treasure trove of interesting people. Recently, Jed, I think, asked me if I would do VTubers, for example, and sure I would. Obviously, it would have to be some kind of, again, like introduction video, something that tells their story and stuff about them, I guess. But yeah, I could do videos like that if there's any channel doing it. I kind of remember that like 4 or 5 years ago, there was channels like this that would do like All Life, for example, introduction videos, 10-15 minutes with like a structure of like telling their stories and showing like what they're good at between singing and clips. So it's definitely an option. I mean, if you guys know any channel like that, suggest it. I'm interested. But yeah, as always, link in the description for Neon John's playlist with all the videos, right? You can check them out and you should. It's a great channel, and obviously check out the original. Link to my Discord if you want to follow me, my stream amount, Patreon if you want to follow me, support me. Sorry, I'm a bit out of breath. I've been running for like an hour and a half, doing so much stuff before this stream, trying to be in time for this stream. It's also insanely hot, so I've been sweating like hell for an hour and a half. I've been sitting for just 5 minutes and, trying to like cool down a bit before starting, but yeah, I can't put my fan on, so it's gonna be hardcore as always. But yeah, I don't know if we're gonna go too long today, maybe 2 hours or something. You guys know my situation has been kind of rough recently for streaming. I've been skipping some stream, making some shorter and stuff like that. I just have to adapt as much as I can. I mean, I've never been the king of like streaming consistently at specific time or something, but yeah, it's been kind of worse recently. It was real Reason 11. I've seen some other men playing it. It is pretty fun to watch, yeah. I don't think I would enjoy playing it, that's for sure. But yeah, this oh wow, 94%. Oh. Okay, I'll shut up then. That's crazy. 94% humidity. Okay, I shouldn't complain with my 56. People have been getting copy struck for the Ado song. Oh, that makes total sense. I mean, that makes sense. Ado is a flip of a coin. I mean, some of her songs are fine, but like the One Piece song or some of like the specific ad song, because they're like tied to some other like copyright company, they can be yabai. It's kind of a minefield. You don't really know until you step on one. That's the way it is. But yeah. So let's get into the videos for today. We are starting with ExoticBankai, which is a band that I really like, but I don't really know their story. I think I discovered them with, it was maybe a Mirai Nikki opening? Maybe that's what it was, yeah. Just cool, like, gothic metal band,
Heavy Metal by a fairy? But not just that. It turns out there's a lot more going on with this fairy than you might have expected. This is going to be a fun one. We're going to talk about Yosei Teikoku and Itsuki Yui in this episode of Otaku Files. Most of us outside of Japan may not be aware of some of the more interesting...
well over 10 years, I would say, but again, never really looked into their stories or anything. I just like the gothic metal style, right? So, yeah. This video is worth watching for actually learning the story.
Personalities within the Japanese otaku landscape, so I thought I'd do a little video series and try to shed some light on these individuals. This is Otaku Files. Yosei Teikoku is a gothic metal band that mixes in elements of electronic and classical music. If that didn't already pique your interest, they've actually been responsible for a number of anime openings. A couple of examples include Mirai Nikki, aka Future Diary, and Big Order. Yosei Teikoku in English means fairy.
Big Order is such a terrible show.
Kingdom. They also have a German name, Das Venreich. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. This is also not their full name. Strictly speaking, it's Yosei Teikoku Daisan Gungakutai, the members themselves being the Gungakutai, or military band. They just go by Yosei Teikoku for the sake of convenience, since Yosei Teikoku Daisan Gungakutai is a pretty long-ass name.
Sure.
Oh, and apparently each of the members have a military rank, which can also change. They were formed to help humans remember the existence of fairies. For those that don't understand, fairies die if you stop believing in them. This has apparently been a very big issue for the fairy kingdom.
I mean, same contest with like a lot of gods in Japan. They have the same kind of idea of like the more worship, the stronger you are. Like in Natsumi Yujin show in one of the early episodes, there's literally like one like that where he used to be kind of revered as like a god of farming or something. But over the time and with modern life, suddenly there's only like one old lady still worshipping him and coming to offer stuff to his shrine. And so, you know, he's basically lost so much power that he's shrunk to a small size. It's a cool concept. I mean, I like the idea of power tied to the belief, you know, I guess.
I can imagine. It doesn't stop there though. They call their fans shinmin, meaning subjects, and their concerts are called shikiten, or ceremonies.
Cool.
Yosei Teikoku started as an indie band all the way back in 1997 in Nagoya.
97, I did not realize. This is actually pretty similar to Omniosa, which is another band that I really love. They're like a demon metal band, is how they're gonna call themselves, right? They've done the opening for Basilisk, the classic ninja anime. That's how I discovered them, basically. And they have kind of the same thing going on, where like they are, you know, demon members bringing metal to the world, basically. And they do like traditional metal, I guess. There's a lot of bands like that in Japan. There's also like the legendary Sekimatu, right? Who were also demon from the demon world.
Yes, they've been going for over 25, coming on to 30 years. The founders are the vocalist Yui and member Tachibana Takaha, who can play a number of instruments and is now mainly responsible for the band's music production and composition. There isn't actually much information out there about how the members met. Amazingly, throughout their career, the members have always stayed in character. In particular, Yui, who is the Fairy Kingdom's empress, and whose rank is Yosei Teikoku Shushin Dokusai Kan, which can be translated as the lifetime dictator of the Fairy Kingdom. That's definitely as clear as you can get. Even in interviews, Yui's tone and way of speaking is very much from the top down, showing who wears the gothic pants in the fairy.
It's really VTuber before VTubers, right? Committing to your bit. I mean, I guess Sekimatu, they've been doing their bit of being demon for like since the 80s, I think. So, you know, some people are committed.
Kingdom. However, for some who don't understand that this is just a part of Yosei Teikoku's fantasy world that they've created, this way of speaking can be seen as extremely arrogant and even off-putting. It might be partly related to this, but Yosei Teikoku doesn't seem to have a really mainstream image, despite being active for so long and being relatively well known within their respective circles.
I mean, it's metal, right? Like, it's no surprise.
It's said that Yosei Teikoku became more well known after playing at music festivals such as Animero Summer Raibu, which is Japan's biggest annual anime song music festival. Before meeting Tachibana Takaha, Yui, who is over 325 years old, apparently listened to bands such as Julian Mary and Lindsberg, which would explain her musical direction. It
Great choice. Big fan of Judy Mary.
also seems that the two released a mini-album called Atarashi Momo in 1996, but this was a complete self-release. However, in their indie days, apparently their theme was a little different. As is hinted by the name of their self-released album, it was based around peaches. Yes, you heard me right. Atarashi Momo means new peach. They supposedly even did things like hand out peach-flavored water when they played live. That sounds kind of refreshing. Going by the peach theme, their first full album was called Momo no Hane, or Peach Wings. Then came Momo no Mori, or Peach Forest. And then finally, Shiko no Momo, or Supreme Peach. I'm going to guess they put some connection between peaches and fairies, but feel free to enlighten us in the comment section below. Apparently for their first 3 albums, unlike their current more gothic direction, they were more of a denpake band. The term denpake is actually a bit long to explain, but within
Don't actually know it.
in a music context, it's a type of genre along the same lines as J-core or J-pop, but usually with elements of kawaii, moe, or what you would associate with the doujinshi scene. There are also songs that are usually
I should write this down, Denpakai, so we can watch a video about it. Denpakai.
Addictive to listen to with catchy beats or choruses. Apparently these songs are specifically called Denpa Songu, but this term isn't as commonly used nowadays. Also, the CDs of their earlier works are said to be very hard to get a hold of now. Their more current goth direction started from their fourth album,
It reminds me of Pantera, right? I mean, legendary metal band, but early on they were doing air metal / power metal, right? And then they switched to their like ultra aggressive, you know, heavy metal style, I guess, that people know them as, and then people get super shocked when they actually see their early stuff. It's quite the contrast, and it's always interesting, some artists like that, some band that, you know, completely switch direction without rebranding with a different name or something. And so in their discography you have both like their old style and their new stuff. It's pretty interesting.
Stigma. Stigma was also their last album as an indie band, managing to make their major debut under Lantis, a Japanese music label owned by Bandai Namco Music Live, for their album Gothic Lolita Propaganda. With each album they released, their sound also got heavier and heavier, in particular after they added new members Nanami, Shiren, and Gaito. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, Yosei Teikoku has been responsible for a number of anison, or anime songs. They've also done music for some games, but upon my research, I found out something very interesting. It wasn't just mainstream anime and games that they made songs for.
Oh, it's gonna be eroge, I assume.
Oh no, they also made songs for more adult forms of entertainment. For example, in around 2004, a couple of years before their major debut under Lantis, they released something called Tsui no Utashu. It turns out this is actually a mini album that is a collection of songs they did for Tsui no Yakata, an adult game series that focuses on maids. I bet you didn't see that one coming.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, anyone familiar with like a lot of Japanese artists, especially like, you know, bands, you won't be that surprised. You know, some people who are a certain way and look down on like, you know, porn stuff, right? They might look at like eroge and instantly think that, you know, everything about it is trash, but I can tell you that the music is very often pretty amazing. People who, like the music selection people that work on eroge, they really have a talent for finding some cool unknown artists. And obviously most of the time that's what it is, right? They basically get music from like a new band or new artist that's not really popular yet. So they're willing to sell their music to eroge, right? But frankly, there's so many incredible artists and music in eroge. Like even your shittiest, you know, like nokige, like straight up just, you know, banging eroge, might have some amazing song. Like I've seen it many times where like you reach the credit and suddenly you have like the coolest rock song or something. It's not that weird. Yeah, it's not that rare actually in Japan. But it's mostly like smaller artists, yeah. Once they get big, I think they don't really do... Like, they might do visual novel, but, you know, old age, I guess.
Even after their major debut, a lot of their music was actually used in adulty kind of stuff. For example, their major debut single, Ashita o Yurushite, was used in an adult game, AR Wasareta Natsu, or AR Forgotten Summer in English.
I've heard of this one.
But that's actually not the only connection to the adult entertainment side of things Yosei Teikoku has, something I'll explain in just a bit. Now, of course, this just might be a complete coincidence, but Yui looks a lot like the seiyuu Itsuki Yui. She even has the same name. Wow. Anyway, Itsuki Yui, I'll just call her Yui, attended the voice acting school Nichinare. Interesting.
Wait, so she's a seiyuu too? I didn't know that. Again, like, I love this band, but I've never looked into any kind of details about them. I'm learning things.
The same as Uchida Maya, who I have also made a video about if you're interested. Yui is from Nagoya. She grew up in a household that was very lenient towards things like manga and anime. Her parents would even often play for her Disney and Studio Ghibli movies, letting her feel like watching anime was just completely natural. One day while she was watching TV, seiyuu from the anime Gegege no Kitaro, based on the popular manga series, appeared on a quiz show. This was the first time she became aware of seiyuu, and was shocked when she heard the seiyuu of Medama Oyaji say their famous line, line from the show in Medama Oyaji's voice. Now understanding that these were the people responsible for the voices of the show's characters, Yui took an interest in becoming a seiyuu herself. This was also at a time where seiyuu started appearing in magazines and hosting their own radio shows which Yui listened to, like Nonko to Nobita no Anime Scramble, thus further increasing Yui's interest in taking this career path. Making the decision to become a seiyuu around middle school, Yui started buying scripts to practice with. She would even practice by turning off the volume of anime shows and trying to do the dub herself. And then later on, she would start attending.
That's actually really smart. I mean, that's probably one of the most logical way to practice.
Now, the first character she was noted to play was Mizukoshi Moe, a character from the anime DC Dakapo, an anime that is based on an eroge.
I have read it. It's what I would call the most generic possible rom-com eroge, basically. It's pretty well rated and it's a series of like many games, but having read it, yeah, it was so like probably the most generic thing possible, right? And maybe for some people there's an appeal to that.
AKA an adult game. Now, having said that, there are actually a lot of anime based on ecchi kinds of games that don't have much of that adult element, and it seems that this anime might be one of them. I actually do remember watching this anime myself, and I don't remember any ecchi kinds of scenes.
I mean, you can say the same thing about like probably the Air canon anime. I mean, you know, they have sex scene, but the anime doesn't have that. So instantly it becomes more so.
Yui has voice characters in a number of different anime and games, but one thing that surprised me was that Yui was actually the seiyuu for Pora from Kuroshitsuji, aka Black Butler. Pretty cool. However, it does seem like her seiyuu activities have slowed down over the years, probably because of her other activities. Going back to the lifetime dictator Yui, it seems that just being the empress of the fairy kingdom wasn't enough for her. Despite Yosei Teikoku still being active, around the first half of 2024, Yui became a VTuber. Her VTuber name is...
Seriously? That's amazing. I'm not that surprised though, again. Like many artists I've been a fan of have been. Asemi Imai from the Yellow Master, I mean, she's become a VTuber too.
Ibara no Nekotsuki Yui, and she plays a variety of different games on stream. She doesn't seem to be streaming as much nowadays, but you can check out her channel from the link in the description box below. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys.
Okay, well, that's a nice quick look, but again, it makes me realize I really don't know too much about them. You know, but there's many artists like that where I just got into their music and I never even read a bit of a Wikipedia page. I just listened to the music. I couldn't tell you the name of the members or something. I've been weird like that in the way I consume music, right? But definitely a band that I've enjoyed since I saw Mirai Nikki a long time ago, and yeah, it's pretty awesome how long they've been going, you know? And just a great catalog of music. Yeah. Really good band, though. I just didn't know she was a seiyuu too, you know? Yeah. Actually, let me look her up on Mal. Itsuki Yui. I did not realize. By most recent. Yeah, okay. I guess she really doesn't do that much voice acting, I mean. To say the very least, I think he oversold it a little bit. Like, she basically voiced Paula in Kuroitsuji, but, you know, she did the TV anime in 2010, a special in 2010, and then a TV version in 2024. Between that, there's nothing else, yeah. Otherwise, Dakapo, Maime, Futakoi, Mayotome, Tanukana, I know is like quite an ishi. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, she's not quite a big seiyuu, yeah, fair enough. Maybe she's done some VN, it's possible, actually. Let's see VNDB. She might be more prolific in visual novel. Yuitsuki. Staff, vocals. Voice characters, okay, yeah, she has quite a few. Dakapo, Saishun, Shiken, Kujira, Monochrome, Futakoi. I think Futakoi is... No, I feel like I've heard of it. Yeah, so she's done a few between like 2002 and 2007. Yeah. Okay, anyway, I just need to listen to more Yosei Teikoku. Good video. Next we have the struggle of Japan's anime song queen, Aoi L. From her name, I don't recognize her, but let's see.
From anime such as Fate Zero and Kill la Kill to Sword Art Online and Code Geass, when you think of amazing anime openings, you're definitely going to think of one of her songs. From her struggles to how she finally managed to achieve her dream. In this episode of Otaku Files, we talk about Aoi Eiru.
Which song did she do?
Most of us outside of Japanese, this
I'll pass the
is
intro.
Otaku Files. Ever since her impactful major debut with her single Memoria, which was used as the opening for the anime adaptation of Fate Zero, there aren't many otaku in or even out of Japan that don't
I thought it was Lisa's song. Well, there was two opening, I guess, fair enough.
know the name Aoi Eiru. However, Aoi's story isn't one of smooth sailing, and the way she managed to break into the industry may actually surprise you. Aoi is from the city of Sapporo, the capital of the prefecture Hokkaido. Ever since she could remember, Aoi had always wanted to be a singer. Even in kindergarten, within the space kids write what their future ambitions are, she wrote in hiragana kashu, which means singer. And after coming home, she would often just sing to herself songs she remembered, even though she didn't understand what any of the lyrics meant. When her parents would take her to karaoke, she just wouldn't let go of the mic. Besides singing songs from her favorite show Sailor Moon, thanks to her parents' influence, she would also sing old school songs like Mikawa Kenichi's Sasoriza no Onna and Kadokura Yuki's Nora. She loved to sing, even if she was completely by herself, but it was being surrounded by people in that kind of environment and being praised that taught her the joy of singing and fueled Aoi's interest in pursuing music. And it was in middle school when Aoi would first pick up an instrument, the guitar. Her goal? To make songs and have the girls go crazy over her. I respect this goal. Eventually, Aoi started becoming interested in forming a band, something she was able to accomplish in high school. At first though, she wasn't actually the singer, just playing on guitar. However, the vocalists would decide to take their leave, and in their place, Aoi also became the singer. She was serious about making a living doing music, and apparently even took a number of auditions. As serious as she was though, things weren't going so well. Aoi was hit with the reality that maybe the music path wasn't actually open for her. She understood that only a small percentage actually make it to becoming professional singers. So she decided to give up and aim for a different career, to try and become a nurse. Interestingly, the reason she thought of becoming a nurse was not completely unrelated to why she wanted to become a singer. Of course, she did purely love to sing, but she was also hoping that her singing could actually be of benefit to someone, like helping them get through a tough time. But despite making that decision,
that's a very selfless reason to want to sing, you know? Not about popularity, fame, or even the art, but to help people, I guess.
Aoi just couldn't let go of that dream she had from ever since she was a little kid. As a result, while studying to be a nurse at a cram school, Aoi decided to start uploading videos of her singing online. She was holding on to hope. Maybe she wasn't expecting her videos to really lead to anything, but she didn't upload very frequently. But all it took was one video to connect her to someone that would end up changing her life forever. That video was her cover of the song Story by Japanese artist Pico. It would catch the eye of Yasuda Fumio. Yasuda Fumio is a music producer that also does writing and composition. Some of his work includes doing the composition for two of One Piece's endings, Free Will and Faith. Fumio reached out to Aoi. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was suddenly contacted by someone claiming to be a music producer that has worked on major anime, I might not believe them. But even though it did sound a bit fishy to Aoi, she agreed to meet him in person and quickly came to understand that he was in fact the real deal. It seems that Fumio recognized Aoi's potential, and after finding out that she was training to be a nurse, he convinced her to keep pursuing music. Not only that, he ended up helping Aoi with her cover videos and was
So many stories like this for artists, right? It's like the one little thing, the one little moment of luck that they finally grab on and don't let go, basically.
also the one that came up with her name, Air. Within Norse mythology, Air is a goddess or Valkyrie associated with medical skill. Given Aoi's pursuit of being a nurse, it was truly a fitting name. Of course, she did stop trying to be a nurse, but never mind that. Eventually, Fumio brought Aoi an amazing offer. He got her the opportunity to work on an original song that would be part of a CD that came with the 5th volume of Risa Ani. Risa Ani is a specialized magazine dedicated to anime songs. The song would be Frozen Eyes. FYI, Frozen Eyes is also on Aoi's first album, Blau. This may have also been the key to Aoi's music career, as not soon after this, she received the offer she had probably been waiting for since she was a small kid, to be able to make her major debut. And through a pretty impactful way, her debut single that Fumio would help with would be used as the ending theme song to the anime adaptation of Fate.
Oh, so it's this ending, okay, fair enough. I remember it now, okay. It kept confusing me because I really thought the opening was by Lisa and I forget the second one.
Zero. She couldn't believe this was real and even thought maybe she had used up all her good luck or something. Even though she wasn't personally into Fate, apparently she told one of her friends who was, which, as you can imagine, got them pretty excited. Why does everyone have that one friend who is super into Fate? However, she did say she ended up reading the original light novel and got so into it she apparently even shed tears. Something I think I do need to mention is that Aoi is actually a bit of an otaku herself. In fact, she's a pretty hardcore gamer, having owned most of the major consoles you could think of and even plays games online. In 2021, she even joined a pro gaming team called Gyogun as a streamer, streaming on Mildom, a streaming platform that was active up until around September 2024. And yes, she does in fact like anime too. Aoi's debut single would of course be Memoria, released on October 19th, 2011. When writing the lyrics for Memoria, Aoi says that of course she was conscious about making it relative to the anime, but wanted to put in her own feelings of what kind of person she wanted to be, a strong and dignified woman who could support the people she cared about. However, she says it turned out to be a really challenging song to sing as it has a lot of high notes, which made her go out of breath really easily. I'm sure she's used to it by now. Some of you might not know this, but when she first made her debut, she was introduced as the mysterious, beautiful vocalist Aoi Air. The reason being she actually didn't show her face fully, usually covering it with her hand. Aoi explains that within her blog, she uploaded a picture of herself once, but with her wearing a mask, and decided to just keep going with that style.
It's funny because this is so common these days, right? And I guess it started being a thing in the internet era, right? With a lot of Japanese streamers, using masks to stream but not really show themselves. And then, when Utahite would do live synthing, they would have masks or they would like do it in a stage that's kind of like darkened or something. And now these days it's like such a common thing, right? One of the biggest artists, Ado, kind of does that. I mean, she kind of revealed her face, but also still does the hidden face thing.
Was actually something she kept up until around June the following year, unveiling her face at her first concert, and then later on through a Nico Nico Doga stream. With Fate having a lot of hardcore fans, you might imagine her being nervous about Memoria's reception, but Aoi comments that she wanted to take on board both negative and positive feedback to use for future growth. But she didn't have much to worry about. Memoria would end up entering the top 10 of the Oricon charts, and with also being the ending song for Fate Zero, Aoi's music career started off in the most spectacular way.
That is a pretty crazy start when you think about it, yeah. Considering, like, sure, Fate was already popular, but this was like a side project written by someone who's already proven themselves, right? The Hollywood Butcher. But even then, side project for big franchise can sometimes not be as popular, right? So, yeah, she really got lucky that she was on this, which ended up being like absolutely massive and is one of the most highly acclaimed anime of all time.
The following year in April, she also released a tribute mini-album to the Fate series called Prayer. Of course, this also made people take notice of her within the anime world, but according to Aoi, it's her next single that really placed the spotlight on her. Her single, Aurora, which was used for one of the openings for Kidou Senshi Gundam Eiji, known in English as Mobile Suit Gundam
Never watched.
With how big Gundam's fanbase is, both in and out of Japan, Aoi says that many people came up to her saying they knew her because of this song. Aurora was released in September 2012, but just 2 months later, she would release her third major single, Innocence, which, as many of you might know, was used for the second opening for Sword Art Online. Yes, meaning all three of Aoi's major single releases were used as either an opening or ending for a major...
Damn, really, this is a great example of a gap for me. Clearly, I've heard a ton of her stuff, and I probably really liked her music, but I guess I've never, taken the time to look up her name and connect the dots that she does this song and this song and this song. It's kind of rare for me, as I'm sure you can tell. Yeah, okay. Maybe better late than never, right? But now I know. Now I know that I need to listen to more of her.
Major anime, definitely a far cry from her high school days, where she thought the music path may have been closed off to her. Guess it shows it pays to upload videos. Now, singing anime songs for her career wasn't originally what Aoi was imagining when dreaming to become a singer, but the power of anime really surprised her, making her pretty happy with how things worked out. Of course, what I also need to mention when talking about Aoi Eiru is the song she released in 2013, about a year after Innocence. Shirius, used in the critical hit anime Kill la Kill.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah, okay.
Kill la Kill is like one of my favorite animes.
She really done stuff that I know, but I really had no way to realize they were all connected. I don't know how this happens.
2013 was also the year she released her first full original album, Blau. As a result, 2013 was a pretty busy year for Aoi, first doing a national tour and then going abroad to attend otaku-related conventions all around the world. Aoi has had a really successful career, contributing some amazing music not only to anime, but other forms of entertainment too, like games and TV programs. But as many of you may know, she unfortunately hasn't always been in the best of health, requiring her to go on hiatus a couple of times. The first time she went on hiatus from the end of 2016 to the beginning of 2018, she said it was pretty hard for her because she found it hard to even sing her own songs. However, she is active again. She signed with a new agency in May 2024 and has released some music through digital release. It also looks like she's doing shows for her fan club too. To find out what she's been up to recently, check out the links in the description box below. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for this request. Of course,
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's like I know her, but I don't know her, right? Like, clearly, I've heard some of her songs many times, but I just didn't connect the dots. It's funny how that happens sometimes, I mean. Yeah. Like, most of the time I care enough to, you know, look up the name and know the artist, but I guess this was a little gap in my knowledge. Fixed. Yeah, I'll have to look up more from her, definitely. She's pretty cool. Some good music. Next, we have Aina the End, which is an artist I already love, but I don't know her story. Same thing, I mean, listen to her a lot, but, you know, what is the story? Well, the story is that I don't react to her anymore because our music always get blocked.
Some of you might know her for her time in Bish, others for her amazing solo career. Regardless of how you know her, she is definitely one to make heads turn. Dancer, singer, idol, actress. In this episode of Otaku Files, we're going to talk about Aina Endo. Most of us outside of Japan may not is Otaku Files. When talking about Bish, I'm sure the first name that many will think of will be Aina Endo, known for her husky voice and impressive dance skills. Even though there was no leader in Bish, Aina was looked up to as sort of the dance leader. In fact, she was put in charge of the group's choreography. But many will also know Aina Endo as a solo artist, having collabed with some of the biggest names within the music world. She is also responsible for a few anime songs. For example, she did the ending theme song for Kusuriya no Hitorigoto. Regardless of how you know her though, Aina's story is not exactly one filled with flowers and puppies. Aina was born in Osaka and said she grew up close to the Banpaku Kinen Koen, or the Expo Commemoration Park in English. She also has a younger sister. She was a very bright and cheerful kid. During elementary school, at the end of the last assembly, every time Aina would ask her classmates, "Who wants to play today?" However, it turns out that Aina was another member of a very popular club that many idols I have covered are also a part of.
Go on club.
The Being Bullied Club. No one ever agreed to play with Aina. Apparently she was viewed as a bit of a weird kid. Aina says that when she was younger, she thought she was pretty gifted. As a result, she said and did things that might have ended up painting a target on her. For example, she once handed over a picture she drew to the art teacher and said, "This is for displaying in the school," forcing them to pin it up somewhere. She would climb trees, and once she reached the top of them, would start singing. Also, she would write in her diary things like, "The tulips were looking at me. It's usually the roses for me." In any case, Aina says that her younger self was quite the nut.
I mean, yeah, you would definitely not fit with the normies, right? But you can feel the artistic sense already.
And that she thought that she was completely invincible. Sounds like an ordinary kid to me though, but it's in middle school where she would officially join the Being Bullied Club, with its happening every day. This included weird things like being forced to climb a tree, but there was no singing to be done at the top. Instead, there was a quote-unquote boss waiting for her, ready to stuff the hood of her hoodie with grass. That sounds annoying. While that may seem
Okay.
tame to some, there was also a more serious incident that actually left Aina traumatized.
I mean, as someone who has bullied too, there's nothing tame. You know, obviously, like, you might say that it's way worse to be beaten up than just insulted or something, but you know, when you're bullied consistently, anything will mess you up, even if it seems tame on the outside. It's the accumulation, right? So even just someone insulting you every day, you know, can break your mind as much as someone beating you every day. You know, nothing is really tame when it comes to bullying.
She was once surrounded by 4 girls and forced to undress in a corridor which also male students go through. At the time, maybe because she was anxious, she was also laughing during the incident, but afterwards realized the severity of that situation. This left Aina with uncomfortable feelings towards getting undressed. Because of this, when she was once asked if she could get naked for something bish related, she refused, saying she just couldn't. But apparently she also
fair
said if
enough.
it's just the nipples, then that would be no problem.
You do you.
No comment. Also, according to Aina, it wasn't just kids from her school that had an issue with her. Apparently, kids from a different middle school would shout things like "die" to her in front of the school. Seriously, what the hell was going on? But luckily, Aina wasn't completely alone. In fact, just as some seemed to have hated her, there were also those that wanted to be really close to her and end up becoming her best friends. It sounds like Aina's status was like Marmite. Either you hated her or you loved her. Anyway, it's thanks to those friendships that saw Aina through some really dark times. There was also another thing that little Aina was proud of: dancing. Aina got into dancing when she was just 4 years old. During middle school, she also attended a musical dance school. However, she says the roles she was given weren't exactly the best, playing things like bugs. I mean, bugs are cool. It wasn't all bad though. In a class full of
I mean, that makes you develop inhuman movements.
20-year-olds, she was the youngest at 13, meaning they all treated her like a little sister. Being in that kind of supportive environment really helped Aina improve her dance skills. Having said that, Aina said she learnt about something else: Japan's hierarchy. Aina ended up stopping her musical dance school lessons during her 3rd year of middle school, but during her 2nd year of high school, she would start jazz dancing. Even though her school classes were usually 10 hours per day, she would leave 3
10
hours
hours?
earlier just
In middle school? What?
so she could focus on dancing. As a result, her school grades weren't exactly the best. I mean, it didn't matter anyway. Aina felt that dancing was her strength, and it was something she was really proud of. However, not only that, Aina wanted to sing. Apparently, a big reason for this is linked to a play she was in when she was 17. For the first time, she got to sing in front of people, and to her
Nice.
surprise, she was praised for her singing. That's when Aina thought to herself that maybe she could make a living as a singer, and so she made the bold move of moving to Tokyo from Osaka when she was just 18 years old. This was
Wow.
instead of going to university, something which her mother wanted her to do. And she did actually get accepted by one university too. But Aina decided to follow her heart, moving to an area of Tokyo called Nakano. Even though her parents weren't initially thrilled by her decision, they did end up supporting her, helping her with a car to move furniture to her new house. However, things didn't exactly go that smoothly for Aina in the beginning. It seems that when she came to Tokyo, she ended up being deceived. She doesn't go into detail, but apparently she was told that if she wanted to be a singer, she had to pay for things like lessons and recording time in advance. Aina agreed to pay, and it turned out to be no small sum. As a result, she ended up not being able to pay her rent for about 6 months. She was then told by her landlord to go find a job and ended up temporarily homeless.
I mean, that's a pretty nice landlord, giving you 6 months of not paying before, like, telling you off, you know?
Just having moved to Tokyo, she didn't have any friends initially to ask if she could stay at their place, so she ended up sleeping in Nakano's parks. I wish I could say because it's Japan she was completely safe, but apparently she ended up having both her wallet and her phone stolen. It was thanks to her vocal coach who lended her 5,000 yen that she managed to survive. She was living in parks for 2 days. Luckily though, Aina would manage to become a singer.
Not that bad then, I mean, it's still not great, but okay.
for a club in Shibuya called Club Asia. This would also be where she had her first performance as a solo artist. Unfortunately, for that performance, there was only one customer. Nevertheless, Aina needed to fulfill the club's quota, meaning she performed at the club every month. However, she wasn't completely alone on stage. She also had backup dancers. This included her friend who was a dancer and just happened to move to Tokyo too. Good timing. After her experiences with living in parks, getting robbed, and now getting the bare minimum she would need to get by in Tokyo, this probably wasn't what Aina envisioned before moving here, but eventually things would start to look up. She would be contacted by someone from Tsubasa Records. And yes, for those that watch my BIS video, this is the same company that set up the audition that Purui took, eventually leading to the formation of BIS. However, it wasn't for something idol related. It was to see if she would be a backup dancer for the singer Kato Yukari, otherwise known by her solo artist name Yukat. Aina agreed and joined the backup dancer unit Parallel. Within Parallel, it was actually Aina and another member Kazumiksu who ended up doing the choreography for the group, which, as some of you might know, links to how Aina ended up being in charge of BISH's choreography. Speaking of which, it was soon after leaving Parallel in the beginning of 2015 that
it does feel like from a story in our childhood, and we've watched the BIS video before, right? It's a group that was doing a lot of weird, crazy stuff to stand out, that she would kind of be perfect, with some of her ideas maybe.
Aina would be announced as one of the starting members for BISH. If you would like to know more about BISH, check out the video I made. It seems that Aina had always felt something was missing during her time in Parallel and was looking into auditions she could take. That's when she found out about the audition for BISH. To find out more, she looked into BIS and ended up being a BIS fan herself, making her want to take the audition. Now, outside of her activities with BISH, Aina actually did a lot of solo projects too. This includes being a vocalist for other artists such as the music producer and DJ Teddy Lloyd. She's also released a number of solo albums, two of which were in the same year of 2021, The End and The Zombie. After BISH disbanded in June 2023, within that same year she would actually make her film debut as the leading actress for Kirie no Uta.
Yeah, I mean, the 2020s is really like Aina Dian's time. She's really been going crazy the last couple of years. I mean, she's become one of the major artists in Japan, I would say.
A film adaptation of the novel written by Iwai Junji. This actually landed her a number of award nominations, a few of which she actually won. Aina is still very much active, having released her fourth solo album, Ruby Pop, in November 2024. She is also scheduled to appear in a number of shows in 2025. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, so far in 25, 26, she's been doing better and better. I mean, anime songs, big collab, etc. Again, the only shame is that, you know, our copyright label or whatever is like blocking anytime I've done a reaction, so I can't react to her music anymore, but she's been killing it and she's awesome. I mean, it's kind of crazy. She seems so multi-talented. On one side, like a crazy mind, an actress, a crazy dancer, but for me, like the most talent is really her voice, right? I mean, if you've ever listened to her, she has like an utterly insane voice. There's really like no one like her in J-pop, J-rock. I mean, it's so freaking intense and crazy to listen to. She's really awesome, yeah. Okay, good video. I really didn't realize she was in BIS too. But it's nice to see the connection between everything, you know? Definitely. Next we have Japan's most famous and weirdest otaku, Nakagawa Shoko. Pretty sure she's the singer of the opening of Gurren Lagann. I believe.
When mentioning famous Japanese otaku, this is one name that will always be at the top. From her obsessions with Kung Fu and Jackie Chan to her more interesting obsessions. Idol, model, mangaka, YouTuber, the list goes on. In this episode of Otaku Files, we talk about the one and only Nakagawa Shoko. Most of us outside of Japan, this is Otaku Files. Whether you're into the otaku side of things or not, there are few in Japan that don't know the name Nakagawa Shoko, known affectionately by her nickname Shokotan. She is someone who gained massive fame on the Japanese interwebs back in the early 2000s for her blog, something we'll get into a little later. Growing up during a time
That's
where
not that
being an
wish.
otaku wasn't viewed very positively in Japan and could even get you fired in some cases, Shokotan is known as the first open otaku celebrity, and as such is viewed as somewhat of a pioneer. She is also known to be quite an eccentric person, even gaining fame overseas for her various antics. Yes, the cat is okay. Let's go back a bit and see how Shokotan's life was unusual even from the start. Shokotan was born in the Nakano ward of Tokyo. After her mother gave birth to her, it seems that the both of them weren't doing
Mommy's
very
pretty
well
cute
and
too.
had to stay hospitalized for a while. As a result, her mother left it to her sister, aka Shokotan's aunt, to do the birth registration of her newborn child. However, her aunt and the person dealing with her at the ward office ended up getting into a fight. Shokotan's parents wanted to name her Shoko using the first kanji that makes up bara, or roses in English, as they both loved roses. But the person at the ward office said that kanji can't be used for a person's name in the koseki, aka family register, making her aunt really angry. In the end, in frustration, her aunt wrote the name Shoko in hiragana. But it turns out the ward office registered the name not as Shoko, but Shioko. This is something Shokotan would find out about years later when she was around 24 years old and went to renew her passport. Whether the person at the ward office did this on purpose or not is a mystery, but Shokotan wasn't happy with that name for years until she decided to change it in 2023. But the story doesn't end there. It turns out her parents registered her with a kids talent agency when she was around 5 years old and used
What name did they use?
the original kanji they wanted her to have for her showbiz name. Who has the last laugh now? Apparently though, Shokotan wasn't exactly the most cooperative kid. For example, she was once put into an audition for a TV commercial and actually reached the final stages, where it was just down to her and another auditionee who happened to be Adachi Yumi, who is a very famous actress in Japan. But little Shokotan stubbornly refused to say her line, much to the frustration of the staff. I'm going to assume things didn't initially go well for her in showbiz. Shokotan describes her elementary school
The ethics of child actors as always.
years as actually quite fun. She really liked her teacher, who actually praised each student's individuality and created a good space for everyone in the class to grow. She would often spend her break time drawing. She especially loved drawing Sailor Moon. However, when she was around 9 years old, tragedy would strike. Shokotan's father would pass away from leukemia. He was 32 years old. Her father, Nakagawa Katsuhiko, was actually a famous person, a musician, singer, actor, and voice actor. Shokotan's relationship with her father was a bit complicated. Her father wasn't always around since he was most likely busy all the time, and Shokotan, being in her rebellious phase, made her feel quite negatively towards him. Of course, she was very young around the time he was alive, and they didn't have many deep conversations, but she didn't know much about his work and how it connected to his absence. Not only that, Nakagawa Katsuhiko's agency was actually against him getting married, but he did it anyway and just kept it a secret. With no internet back in those days, that probably wasn't so hard to do.
I mean, he looks like a Nickelodeon type, so I'm sure, yeah. They wanted to keep selling the, single guy idol lie thing,
In fact, until Shokotan actually revealed who her father was many years later, no one within the showbiz world actually knew they were related. She does have positive memories of him too though. An interesting one is how her father bought her all the volumes of Gegege no Kitaro and told her if she wants to be an adult, she has to read this manga. Raising Kids 101 to all those new fathers out there. However, buying Shokotan more mature manga ended up leading to a family meeting. The reason? Because little Shokotan would keep drawing pictures of naked girls. Of course, now Shokotan doesn't hate her father anymore and really appreciates all the things he's done.
Is there even naked girls in Gegege no Kitaro? I mean, sure, it's about like yokai and demons, but from the little bit I've seen of it, it's very children's show still.
She also enjoys discovering new things her father did within the showbiz world that she never knew about. In contrast to her elementary school years, middle school was anything but fun. Unlike the open and accepting atmosphere of her elementary school, upon entering her middle school, which was an all-girls school, Shokotan would learn about caste systems within the class, how you would have a different experience depending on which group you are in. She would learn about this the hard way. Not being able to keep on top of trends and drawing pictures in most of her free time,
she can draw.
Shokotan's unique personality ended up getting her labeled as a weirdo by the quote-unquote boss group. What this meant is that most of the kids in the class slowly stopped interacting with her. Remember, this was at a time where otaku weren't viewed very well in general. When she came home, Shokotan would just spend all her time on her hobbies. This was also around the time she got into kung fu movies, becoming a massive fan of Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee. But one day, things escalated. She noticed that someone was putting dents in...
Kind of unrelated, but yesterday I watched what some people are calling like the best new kung fu movie, and it is kind of a kung fu movie. It's called The Furious. It's kind of a crazy collaboration between director, scenario writer, stuntman and actors from Japan, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Philippines. It's a crazy action movie. The story isn't very interesting. It's about a guy who has to save his daughter from like a crazy gang, but the action is absolutely insane. Some people have been comparing it to The Raid, which are insane. I don't think it's as good, but it's still pretty insane, and I recommend it. It just came out. The Furious is called.
In her shoe locker. She knew who it was and got back at them,
Hello.
but that would
Smiley
lead
face.
them to taking her loafers from the locker. Shokotan didn't actually want to admit she was being bullied, but with no loafers, she had to tell the teacher. While consulting with them, she broke down in tears. The teacher ended up saying, "Okay, for now, take these loafers and go home." Thinking that the teacher was going to sort things out, she did as told. But some days
Never
later, that
trust the
same teacher
teachers.
said to Shokotan, "Nakagawa, hurry up and pay for those shoes." As you can imagine, she was shocked. She argued back, saying that the teacher must have known who had taken her shoes and that they are the ones that should be paying for it.
I've told the story before, but I had a story like this. I think it was maybe my second to last year in high school. I was bullied for many years already, and it was the end of the year where you were supposed to return the books that the school lent you, like the history book and stuff like that. And since, I was a terrible student and, like my books were in perfect state since I never used them. Most of the time I didn't even bring them to school. I left them at home and they were in perfect state. And that day I brought everything back, because obviously they told you like you have a fine that your parents have to pay if they're in bad state. Then, it's like morning class, I think it was art class or something. And this girl, which was not usually a bully, but, like part of the popular girl that just, never talked to me or something, she started talking to me, and obviously I was very weirded out, right? And, she was like, "Oh, can you lend me your history book or something? I need to look into something." And, as the bullied, scared kid, I didn't even think anything. I was like, "Okay, I'll just do it," because even saying no, arguing is not even an option. So I lent her the book, and later she returned it to me. I don't think anything, but then later in that day we get to the point where you go to this room where like you have to give back your books, and the teacher checked the state of it, and I put out the history book, and she opens it and she tells me that a CD is missing because there's some kind of CD inside, and I knew right away what happened because I was sure that the CD was there. I had checked in advance, and basically what very likely happened is that girl just switched hers where she lost the CD for mine, and yeah, I mean, that was our plan all along. But I knew that, I was like the bad kid that doesn't do his schoolwork and all that, right? So there's no way I'm going to be believed. I felt the rage inside of me, but I knew there's literally like no chance of even trying to argue. That girl was seen as a good girl or whatever, so that's my story. I had to just bite the bullet and, it was pretty fucked, yeah.
The teacher admitted that might be true, but still demanded that she had to pay for the shoes. Shokotan couldn't believe it and said she could no longer trust.
"No, I didn't put your song in your tab. Please, sing for a second. I mean, this is not obviously like a song reaction stream. Like, you come in, you don't even say hello, you don't even like take a look at what kind of stream it is. Come on, dude."
Adults. With that, she locked herself in her room and from then on refused to go to school. She
I get it.
became a hikikomori. During this period, she says she did have thoughts of wanting to die, but things like stroking cats, eating chocolates, and doing her hobbies like drawing, watching anime, and playing video games really saved her. Basically, I think she just needed to get out of...
Kind of the same for me. I mean, I did finish school without becoming an hikikomori, but after school, I became an hikikomori. kind of weird, I guess, when you think about it. And yeah, for like 2 or 3 years I was, and the only thing really keeping me alive was definitely, you know, watching anime, reading manga, playing games, stuff that I enjoyed, and that would help me not think about all the bad stuff in reality. So I'm starting to relate quite a bit to her, you know, quite a bit. Some similar stories.
That environment. Shoko-tan also didn't attend her middle school's graduation ceremony, something she regretted years later. Her mother decided to enroll her into a correspondence high school so that she could learn at her own pace.
Correspondence.
悟空じゃありません。悟空と見せかけて。俺クリリンだよ。俺クリリンだよ。
Now, excluding her showbiz activities as a child, when she was 14 years old, Shoko-tan of her own volition would start becoming interested in the showbiz spotlight. The reason being, she wanted to be like Katsumura Mika, who played the pink Time Ranger in the tokusatsu series Mirai Sentai Time Ranger. However, something rather interesting happened a couple of years later that would see Shoko-tan being involved in the showbiz world again. Worried about her daughter's mental health, Shoko-tan's mother decided to do something special for her 16th birthday. She took her to Hong Kong to eat at Jackie Chan's restaurant. But not only that, an unexpected surprise was also waiting there, unbeknownst to her mother. Sitting at the table next to them was the man himself.
Really?
Shoko-tan couldn't believe it, but she didn't want to bother him since he was eating. According to her otaku friends, Jackie was supposedly filming in Canada around that time, but here he was. Although apparently he wasn't in the best shape, looking like he had just been treated for injuries. She couldn't contain her emotions though, and ended up crying. Jackie, noticing that, went to their table to ask what was wrong. He then said he would pay for their food. He even gave her a hug. Aww. After finding
That's
out
a good
where they were
story.
from and that Shoko-tan was actually a massive fan of his, Jackie went back and brought her a special collectible card with
Obviously, I think these days everybody knows that Jackie Chan is not that great of a guy, you know, especially to his own family, right? But, you know, when you're young and you meet a celebrity like this, you know, this is a great moment for someone like her who needed something like this.
him then signing it. That must have been awesome. What's amazing though is what happened not too long after that. Raising Shoko-tan by herself, her mother actually ran a drinking establishment. One day, people working for Jackie Chan's agency came in for a drink. It seems they were looking to hire a Japanese person for the agency. Shoko-tan's mother, within a heartbeat, said that her daughter loves Jackie Chan and would be perfect for the job. Shoko-tan would end up
That's
having
crazy.
2 interviews, one in Tokyo and one in Hong Kong, with the man himself. Now, she actually took the interviews without understanding what kind of job it was. It turns out the office they had in Japan was made to basically take care of Jackie whenever he had to travel there. But things didn't work out, and Shoko-tan ended up having her contract terminated.
I mean, I'm guessing she didn't really have the skills for everything that entails, yeah. Yeah, it's a shame.
It was a pretty dark time for her. However, something positive did happen when she was 16. She won the Grand Prix Award at the Poporo Garu Audition. Poporo is an entertainment magazine geared towards women. If you don't count her childhood acting years, this is said to be the start of her career in showbiz. The following year, she would be chosen for the Miss Magazine contest, a gravure contest held by Shukan Shonen Magazine, aka Weekly Shonen Magazine. Soon after, she would register as a talent of Watanabe Entertainment, a major Japanese entertainment conglomerate. Winning the Miss Magazine contest and having a certain level of fame now as a gravure model, apparently the agency had fairly high expectations of her. However, work never came Shoko-tan's way, and she said she was almost fired.
Not that
Man,
simple.
she could never catch a break, could she? Like I touched upon in the beginning of this video though, what would actually skyrocket her to fame would be her blog, aptly named Shokotan Blogu, which she would start a year or so later in November 2004. As to why her blog became so popular, one of the attributing factors was how often she would update it, apparently even up to 50 times per day. The content itself also wasn't very complicated, just talking about things like her interests and pets. Over the course of the first 2 years, the blog had over 100 million hits. In 2008, it had been reportedly accessed
crazy.
over 1 billion times. If you're a fan of Shoko-tan's blog, let me know why you like it in the comment section below. Someone becoming famous through the internet was practically unheard of during that time.
Wait, that's I just realized, yeah, she's cosplaying JoJo for a reason. She's meeting Araki. That's cool.
But it seems Japanese netizens were just drawn to this young otaku. Shoko-tan was named as the blogging queen. Coupled with her already being a part of an entertainment agency, in 2005, this newfound fame of hers would see her making a bunch of media appearances and being involved in different projects. This includes appearing in the TV show Kangaeru Hito, being a regular on another TV.
Okay, I'm pretty sure I was wrong. She's not the one who sang the Gurren Lagann song. Maybe they have similar name.
Show called Osama no Branchi and voicing the character Taki Suzuna in the anime adaptation of Aishirdo 21. I'm actually a big fan of that show and had no idea she voiced that
Never seen
character. Of course, many will also note her music career starting the following year in 2006 with the release of her single Brilliant Dream. The number of things that she has done over the years is just far too vast to cover in this one video, but Shoko-tan managed to establish herself as a well-known figure in Japan. From starting her own fashion brand called Mamitasu in 2009 to being made the official Hong Kong Goodwill Ambassador in 2012, she has in no way limited her activities to just things otaku related. However, fame has also brought its fair share of problems for Shoko-tan too. As she revealed in 2021, she has been stalked numerous times and has also had to move house many times too. Shoko-tan is also noted for her fair share of haters, especially online. It even led to a man in his 20s being prosecuted. Apparently, he wrote things like he was going to throw acid on her and also telling her that she should take her own life. But despite all the things that she has...
I mean, anyone with any level of fame faced that, right? I assume. Yeah, I don't know what the threshold is, but...
gone through, Shoko-tan is still going. She regularly uploads on her YouTube channel and is living her otaku dream. She has also been an advocate to help those who became a hikikomori and shut themselves away from society like she experienced herself, even appearing in campaigns for the government. Anyway, that's going to do it for this video, guys.
Okay, well, that was a good, little recap. I'll definitely need to look more into her because I really wonder what she has done that I might actually know. I mean, I guess we could look up her mal. If she's done more anime-related stuff directly. Nakagawa Shoko. She voiced the character in Sailor Moon. That's nice, huh? That's nice. Yeah, it seems like she's done quite a bit of little side character in different animes, so quite a bit of anime stuff. Some Pokemon, some Dragon Ball. That's very nice, huh? Actually, she voiced Pichu and quite a few Pokemon characters like Sad, Odd. Okay, that's quite nice. Yeah, but I was definitely confusing her with someone else for the Gurren Lagann song. Yeah. Oh, she did the second ending of Beelzebub. That's cool. And the first opening of the remake of Uchisenkan Yamato. Oh, she also did the lyrics and ending 5 of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So she's done quite a bit with her music too. Okay. Awesome. Very awesome. Yeah. Yeah, she seems pretty awesome. I mean, I respect anyone who helped normalize being an otaku and make it just a lot more open, you know. I respect it. She's pretty cool. Let me just look up who I was confusing her with. Gurren Lagann opening. Shoko Nakagawa, so wait, do they have the same name or am I crazy? Solado Days. Like Shoko Nakagawa. Wait, is it the same Shoko Nakagawa or not? It wasn't on the mail page. Is there wait, no, see, it is her, I'm not crazy. But when I search... Oh, here it is, okay, I didn't see it when I was scrolling. Okay, so I wasn't crazy. Here it is, okay. I'm glad I wasn't crazy for once. She did do the opening Solado Days of Gurren Lagann. I guess that's probably the most famous thing she did for anime. Yeah, because I remember I reacted to her first take performance a year or two ago. Okay, that explains it. Okay. So I know her, yeah, definitely. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, before we continue, I'll take a quick break. Give me 5 minutes as always, I need to refresh. It's so hot, I'm sweating, and I need some more to drink. So, coming back in 5 minutes. Okay, I'm back. Sorry for the wait. So yeah, let us continue. Next we have Japan's most hated pro gamer, Tanukana. Never heard of her. I don't actually know much of any esports people. As I always said, I never really watched esports. Like, in concept I like it, but, you know, not really something I've ever found the time to watch. I guess with stuff like VTubers, I've gotten to know some of the people from like Crazy Raccoon and, you know, maybe some other esport people, but I don't really watch them per se, and I don't really watch competition, you know.
Whether it's through virtual fists or words online, this is definitely one Japanese internet personality that doesn't pull any punches. And as a result, her fighting game career ended up going up in flames. This is certainly going to be an interesting one. In this episode of Otaku Files, we're going to talk about Tanukana. Most of us outside of Japan may not be aware of some of the... When thinking about the fighting game scene in Japan, who do you normally think of?
Umehara Daigo, I think. That's probably like the only name I can name.
Perhaps it's one of the Kakuge Goshin, aka the 5 legendary FGC gods, Umehara Daigo, Tokido, Nuki, Sako, or Haitani. Whoever it is, I'm going to guess it's probably a guy. The FGC, especially 10-15 years ago, isn't exactly known for having many women competitors. However, in this video, we're going to talk about one of them, who is known not just for her gaming skills, Tanukana, who apparently is the second Japanese woman to have become a pro gamer. Originally from the city of Tokushima, located in the prefecture of the same name, Tokushima.
I hate her because she's sponsored by Red Bull. Joking. Even though I drink Monster every day, recently a few times I took like the small Red Bull can, and they're not so bad, you know.
Tanukana, whose real name is Tanikana, was exposed to games from a really young age, as her father was actually a gamer, and along with her siblings would watch him play. The real leap into gaming for her was when she visited the arcades when she was in high school and came across Tekken. Living in essentially the countryside, Tanukana would often ride her bike for 45 minutes to go play at the arcade whenever she had the chance. She also wasn't alone, often going with 2 other high school friends. 3 high school girls playing games in the arcade was apparently quite rare back then, and there were even some forum posts about them. After high school, Tanukana did various jobs, but would still carry on playing Tekken, although that balance wasn't always easy for her. Her move to be a pro gamer came around the end of 2016 when she applied to the Japanese esports organization Cyclops Athlete Gaming, which is currently known as CAG Osaka, who at the time were looking for new members to join. Tanukana was, to a certain degree, already recognized for her Tekken skills, as she was once invited by Bandai Namco Entertainment to play at a Tekken event overseas. With there also being very few female applicants, it wasn't difficult for her to join. She would then move from her hometown of Tokushima to Osaka the following year. 2017 is also noted to be the year she started her online streaming activities. Some of her earlier achievements as a pro gamer include coming in 3rd for Tekken 7 at Combo Breaker 2017, an event that was part of the Capcom Pro Tour. She was also 2nd at the Tekken World Tour Online 2017, also for Tekken 7. Tanukana was very active over the next few years, playing at various tournaments. Being a female pro gamer definitely made her stand out, and she certainly had a degree of popularity outside of Japan too. But Tanukana didn't just like to game, she also liked to talk, talking about her various thoughts, opinions and experiences through streaming sites like Twitch and Mildom.
Oh boy.
お前本当胸の大きさだけだないいとこいいやん1個あったらそれでええやろなんだけおっぱい見てけこの野郎
However, it's her words that would end up affecting her pro gaming career pretty severely. On February 15th, 2022, during one of her Mildom streams, she talked about a time that she was being hit on by an Uber driver, how after the driver delivered her food, he stayed close to her house and decided to ring the doorbell again to ask for her number, which she found scary. When asked by a viewer why she wasn't interested, Tanukana says that the driver was probably only around 165 centimeters tall, and when understanding that, thought he had no chance. That if he was taller and built...
Did she only get cancelled for saying she doesn't like Shulking? I mean, is that it? She actually got cancelled for that?
then she might have given him her number. Tanukana then says 165 centimeters is way too short, and that if you aren't at least 170 centimeters tall, you don't have human rights, and that you should go about your life thinking, I don't have human rights. She also then says that those men should look into getting bone lengthening surgery, and once they are at 170 centimeters, they will have human rights. Yikes.
That is a shitty take, but it's the kind of thing that, like, obviously it's Japan, so, you know, saying something like that is really, really bad. But I just think, like, if someone on Twitch from the West said that, that wouldn't even be clipped or something, because, you know, it's such a lukewarm take. Or, like, people would just see it as, like, a cheap rage bait, like, nothing that bad, right?
Oh, but not to worry, she mentions that even though she is rough on short guys, she is kind to guys who are overweight or are balding. Well, that's a relief now, isn't it? Now, there...
I mean, it's personal preference. Personally, I don't think, like, you know, if you don't like short guys, it's fine. Obviously, she went a bit edgy with the way she said it, but personal preference are fine. You know?
There is some contention here, as a few people have suggested that Jinken Nai, aka no human rights, is actually gaming lingo that means you aren't qualified to play on that stage. That basically she was using that term to say, I'm only romantically interested in men who are at least 170 centimeters tall, not literally meaning that men under that height have no human rights.
デブとハゲには優しいけどチビにだけはめっちゃ厳しいからただチビだけはほんまに人権がないだから私は
I mean, she's a gamer, you know. It just feels like gamer talk. I don't know.
ガチモンのハゲと付き合ったこともあるしガチモンのデブと付き合ったこともあるからチビだけはほんまに無理 A カップに人権なくない一緒
However, even though there were only around 30 or so viewers during that particular stream,
All you need is one hater to go crazy with something like this.
word spread online like wildfire, with those calling the statement hate speech and even discriminatory. Something that should be noted here is that the average height of Japanese men is noted to be around 170 to 172 centimeters, meaning chances are there are quite a lot of Japanese men under
Sure.
170 centimeters. Tanukana did put out a tweet saying that indeed it wasn't her intention to hurt people and that she was talking about preferring taller guys. She also did apologize, but in a somewhat casual manner, not in the formal way which many in Japan would expect in this sort of situation, which apparently had the opposite effect.
It's so tame to me again. We often see stuff like this, right? This kind of controversies in Japan. It just feels so tame compared to the kind of stuff people do in the West, and, you know, that I guess we all see as like, who cares?
Tanukana received a whirlwind of hate. There were even comments that went as far as to say, someone go stab her. Cyclops
Of course.
Athlete Gaming also issued an apology to fans and sponsors. It seems that Tanukana did also later tweet out a more formal apology, but it was too late. All of the sponsors that were listed in her page, including Alienware and Red Bull, were taken off. Cyclops Athlete Gaming would soon then terminate Tanukana's contract. Now, one thing that needs to be understood, it wasn't too long ago that as a profession, pro gamer was defined in Japan. According to the Japan Esports Union, one of the main points that defines a pro gamer is quote-unquote self-awareness of being a professional, a stipulation added so that esports pros would be taken seriously within Japan. So it might seem understandable as to why this decision was made. Now, I wish I could say this was the only time Tanukana said something controversial, but unfortunately there have been other times too.
Okay.
For example, the following year in October, during a Twitch stream, to some hate comments, she said that maybe she should burn the lot of them for the sake of the world, and then said Auschwitz concentration camp.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see. Yeah, maybe I'll take back my beef on somebody else. I think she didn't mean it as a joke earlier. I see.
Some months later, she would explain how that remark cost her some work, but
I mean,
instead of showing any remorse, she said jokingly to her comment section, "Shut up, I'll send you to the gas chamber."
yeah, okay. Like, I like dark humor, and I've definitely laughed at some fucked up, you know, like Jew jokes before, I guess. Stuff in South Park, for example, right? You know, so I won't like claim that this really shocks me that much, but yeah, don't do that. I mean, yeah, what else can I say?
Not much else to say there. In any case, even though we might not be seeing Tanukana anytime soon in a
At least, you know, girl or not, she's definitely playing into the stereotype of like this kind of crazy gamer type.
major Tekken tournament, she is more active as a streamer on Twitch. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. This was a request
You know, again, I guess you could see all of it as some shitty jokes, you know. Even the Ojitsu one, I mean, again, on the internet you see people doing this kind of fucked up jokes all the time, so I don't know, maybe I'm too desensitized, right? Like, yeah. Like, on one side I don't think it's great, but, you know, I don't feel like it's that bad compared to many controversies that people face no consequences for, you know. I guess, yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Okay, interesting character. Next we have something. Bear with me. Japan's mysterious dark eroge metal band, Denshiki Karen Ongaku Shudan, or Denkare. Let's see if I know any song from them. Play.
Yosei Teikoku, step aside. When talking about eroge music, this band is front and center, even though their identities are actually a secret. Well, mostly anyway. It's time for more gothic metal, but with an ecchi twist. In
Let's
this
go.
episode of Otaku Files, we're going to talk about Denki Shiki Karen Ongaku Shudan. Most of us outside of Japanese.
Quite a name.
This is Otaku Files. Denki Shiki Karen Ongaku Shudan, that's a mouthful, or Denkare for short, are a Japanese gothic metal band. Though they're not your typical Japanese gothic metal band that you'll find being marketed within mainstream circles. Oh no, because if you look them up, one of the first things you'll see noted about them is that they make music for adult games, known as eroge.
Which frankly, again, this is metal. Like, you think anyone who's into metal is gonna be like that shocked or that weirded out by it? Like, metal was never gonna be mainstream anyway, so someone into metal would discover a band and see that the band does music for eroge is not gonna be like that put off, you know?
Something I'll get more into in just a bit. But probably due to that, they aren't exactly the easiest band to find information about, and most of the members have kept their identities a complete secret. Hopefully though, you'll learn a few things about them through this video.
Shit.
Now, if you didn't notice, Denkare has a pretty lengthy name, but there is something else about their name that you might not have guessed. Denki Shiki Karen Ongaku Shudan is comprised of all the band members' names, or at least it seems they made it to be that way. Denkare was formed way back in 2001 by 3 friends. Denki, who plays guitar and was apparently the one who did the lyrics and composition of the songs in the beginning, Karen, who is the band's vocalist and is in no way whatsoever associated with Yui of the band Yosei Teikoku, wink wink, and Dan, who for whatever reason has a G in his name even though it's pronounced as Dan, and apparently doesn't actually play anything from what I understand, but takes care of the back office work for the group. By the way, Karen likes macarons and drinking tea. Anyway, the story goes that Denki and Karen were having a tough time coming up with a name for the group. That's when their graphic designer friend kinda half-jokingly suggested Denki Shiki Karen Ongaku Shudan, although apparently the kanji characters were a bit different at first. Even though their friend probably wasn't expecting them to take their suggestion seriously, supposedly Denki agreed to use it on the spot. And also at some point, it must have been decided that any new members that entered the group would have their stage name be one of the words from Denki Shiki Karen Ongaku Shudan too. Now, initially up until around 2003, it was mainly just Denki and Karen making the songs, but they got to work pretty quickly, making songs for 2 different ecchi games within 2001, the year they were formed. One called Erase, for the game Ryojoku Kazoku System, which is a game where apparently you play a guy who gets sent some request to live as part of a pretend family for 5 days, where you get to pick who will play your mother and little sister out of a choice of 4 women. You are also told that you can do anything except murder. Well, we all know where this goes.
Sounds like a normal plot.
The other
What is that
song
face?
was Sora ni Saku Hana, and this was for the game Yurei wa Dokyonin, which sees you playing an average working man named Tatsuya, who has a possible
The
love
lips are
interest
weird,
within
but it's kind of interesting the way they try to animate them.
his company. Things were seemingly going well until a ghost named Akane shows up and for some reason ends up living with you. Chaos ensues and you end up dealing with things in the bedroom, I guess. Now, you might have noticed that these songs don't exactly have that strong metal element yet that the group would incorporate into their music. Apparently, a particular song they would release a few years later would lead them down the path of metal, something I'll touch upon in just a bit. It also seems their work was recognized quite quickly too, as the following year they ended up doing songs for 5 different eroges, more than twice the amount of their first year. Although Denkare remained very obscure in regards to any mainstream attention for very obvious reasons, they certainly were building a reputation for themselves in the eroge world. How Denkare managed to get so involved with making songs for eroge is a bit of a mystery, but they are noted to work quite a lot with eroge makers Psyche, more specifically their offshoot brand Black Psyche, which makes more darker themed eroge. Nice. Upon further research, I have found out that they have a close relationship with one of Black Psyche's in-house artists named Ueda Metao, who seems to be quite the metalhead himself. In fact, it's apparently Ueda Metao that did a lot of the CD cover art for Denkare. In 2003, Denkare would welcome their first new member, keyboard player On, whose name is taken from the phonetic of the next kanji character after Karen within the group's name. Apparently, On was already an associate of the members through the internet and was nicknamed Oji, aka Prince. However, it also seems that due to medical reasons, On hasn't been active in the group for quite some time now. The biggest change for Denkare would arguably be what would happen the following year in 2004, attributed to the addition of another new member, guitarist Shiki, producing the song Vampire, which would be the main theme song for the eroge Main Detto Pratto Shihaisha no Tame no Kyoshi Kyoku, abbreviated as MDB. MDB has a pretty intricate story, one revolving around a secret war between vampires and vampire hunters, with you right in the middle. The decisions you make within the game may very well decide the fate of humanity, as well as the undead. An interesting fact about MDB was that the game planner and director was our very own Ueda Metao. This was actually his first game in that position. Being under the Black Psyche label, MDB was known for its strong eroguro depictions, especially in regards to gore. It was also known for its really high difficulty level and for Denkare's
Man, the artist is a bit all over the place. Like, some of the sky design are a bit rough, I won't lie. But some are actually pretty good looking. There's always something. I know some people dislike the style, but I've always been like absolutely enamored with the late 90s, early 2000s character design style that was very popular in visual novel, eroge, and to an extent anime and manga. There's really something about it, you know. Also, praise to the UI for the dialogue box. It's very nice in its edginess.
Vampire became a massive hit within the eroge scene, and even got the band noticed among Japanese netizens some years later through streaming sites like Nico Nico Doga and YouTube. It's apparently thanks to Vampire's positive reception that the band decided to keep going with a more metal sound.
Oh shit. Yeah, I'm definitely checking out Denkare.
Some other notable Denkare songs include Raison d'être, which is apparently French for quote-unquote a reason for existence.
Oh well, the way he says it in Japanese, it sounds nothing like the actual word. It's raison d'être. Yeah, it does mean that. Your reason for being.
This was the opening theme song for the eroge Gun Katana, Non-Human Killer. Another example would be Endless Corridor, the main theme song for Mugen Kairo. Honestly, if you want to know more about their most popular songs, you should look to Niji-sanji's Hyakuman Tenbara Sorome, who actually did a karaoke stream of just Denkare songs. I'll put a link in the description box below. In 2010, Denkare would welcome 2 new members, bassist Gaku, someone the members knew about a few years earlier, and drummer Shu. Apparently, Apparently, Gaku would also do a lot of the composition for the band's songs along with Denki, despite building themselves quite the fan base and being a respectable metal band in their own right. For the longest time, Denkare kept themselves in the shadows, just providing eroge music. However, within that year of 2010, as part of their quote-unquote almost 10th anniversary, they put out their first album, Black Box, which is actually a 3-CD box set comprised of their most popular songs as well as some demos. They would, however, put out a proper 10th anniversary set the following year called White Box. Also on their 10th anniversary, they finally decided to step out of the shadows and onto the stage with their very first concert called Gig Grimoire, held at Yokohama Blitz. The audio from this concert would be released as a live album the following year. It seems Denkare finally understood they were a badass metal band with actually quite a number of fans, as they would hold other live shows throughout the years and even a few talk events. Now, Denkare has had a couple of member changes. It would be announced that Shu, the drummer, had actually left in 2014, but they would be replaced by Shu the second. Shiki, the guitarist, would announce their departure during the group's 15th anniversary talk event in 2015. They would be replaced by another guitarist picked through an audition and given the name Nishiki. They also have a nickname, Nikki.
10 years in the joint made you a fucking pussy.
The most interesting thing that I need to touch upon was what happened in 2013, where Shiren of the gothic metal band known as Yosei Teikoku would play with the band in a quote-unquote rental capacity. Wow, amazing. How could that have happened? Definitely no other connections to Yosei Teikoku whatsoever. By the way, Karen's birthday happens to be the same as Yosei Teikoku's Yui. Shocker. Despite remaining a primarily eroge music producing band, in 2018 they managed to do something quite different. They did the opening theme song for an anime called Agu Tensai Ningyo, the name of the song being Prima Junamisu. This anime is actually based on a Chinese webcomic called Agu. Pretty cool. Denkare have been going on for almost 25 years, and in all honesty, I think it sucks that they aren't more well known. Then again, it does seem like that is something they decided to do on purpose. Even if you aren't into eroge, especially the brutal kind, you might certainly appreciate them if you're into metal. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video.
Yeah, I mean, I did not know about them, but I'm definitely writing the name down and I'm gonna look up their music. It's totally my thing. If it's very much like Yosei Teikoku, I mean, totally what I want to check out, yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, great stuff. This song is really introducing me to a lot of people that I want to check out. Just adding more to the list, to the infinite list. Yeah. Okay, they're pretty cool. That's a good, interesting band, artist, however you want to call them. But yeah, maybe a bit of a short stream, but I'm gonna leave it at that for today. You know, we still have a lot of video from this channel to watch. I'll be doing more stream, discovering all those people, between those I know and those I don't. But yeah, we've learned about quite a few people I kind of knew, but not much of the actual story today, so I'm satisfied. Definitely, sorry. So good stuff. And definitely check out Neon John. I mean, support that channel. I'd like them to keep making videos like this, because they're pretty great. Like, the only thing I would say is that while I like their 10-minute style videos, I kind of hope that eventually, you know, it starts making like maybe a longer documentary about some of them, like a much more thorough documentary, because it feels like he usually tells more of the early story of the artist, and then kind of speedruns the later part when they're actually popular, I guess. But sometimes I'd like some more, like, you know, fully dive in on every part of the career. I feel like that could be cool, yeah. But I guess it's not that kind of channel. This is more like a quick introduction to people. I get it. Anyway, good stuff from Neon John. Hope you enjoyed the reaction today. Like, subscribe, comment. Tomorrow I'm doing a Sunday stream, as always. Hopefully I'll be able to do it. A bit worried with my home situation, but I will do my best. As always, like, subscribe, comment. ちゃんと登録よろしくお願いします. I'll see you guys next time. See you.